The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Views and opinions expressed by Hotep Jesus are those of Hotep Jesus's and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Hotep Nation or any of its officials. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact our Office of General Counsel via the sheet of account. And Hotep and done.
To the new thing isn't global warming or isn't Ukraine or isn't COVID. Now it's the Muslims. And I don't like a lot of the stuff Israel's doing. I think they stood down. I think it was a false flag. I mean, I think real Islamicist attack, but it was clearly money Biden sent. But what's the larger picture here with Harvard and the big universities endorsing this? We got a lot to talk about in the 45 minutes or so we've got him. And I'm going to cover some more news after he leaves us in this hour before the next guest joins us. But clearly, we said another big war is coming. That's going to be the distraction from the COVID deaths, all the rest of it. And now they're trying to trigger a holy war. Obviously, you get boosted big on Twitter and everywhere else, Hotep, where you're already reaching millions a day if you got on the bandwagon. But clearly, the establishment is trying to create some type of clash of civilizations here. Hotep Jesus, thank you for joining us, hotepjesus.com. And the people can also find you at Hotep Jesus on Twitter and menofhonor.com. So, Hotep, thank you so much for coming on with us.
Oh, absolute pleasure, Alex. So, yeah, your take on Israel is pretty much similar to my take. Obviously, the timing is convenient. We have election season now here, a.k.a. grifting season.
Two, one, boom. Hotep Jesus.
Of all the Jesuses I know, he's the Hotepiest. Social scientist and YouTube host, Hotep Jesus.
How the fuck do you get a name like Hotep Jesus?
The one and only Hotep Jesus.
Ryan Sharp, better known to the world as Hotep Jesus.
Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus.
Hotep, you're a genius. HotepJesus.com.
Somebody said, what do you think you are, some kind of Hotep Jesus?
Ooh,
and
that's
I was
good.
Just like, ooh, that's sexy. Yes, I do think I'm Hotep Jesus.
Oh, wait. Hold up. There we go. There we go. I'm going to fix it in a second. Good afternoon, Hoteps. Welcome to the Grift Report, live Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm your host, the Grift God.
Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus.
Hotep, you're a genius. HotepJesus.com.
Oh, this a real Hotep brother.
Hotep to the Hotepistanis, Hotep to the chat. We got a special guest in the house, Dyer.
Hotep.
Dyer, what's up, bro?
What's up, man? Glad to be here talking to you. Finally, I've seen you in interviews for many years. Saw you on Alex the other day, so it's nice to have a conversation.
Absolutely. Always great to have a conversation with the InfoWars fam. How was it like working for Alex, man? How you like it? You got the Friday slot? The Friday fourth slot?
Yeah, 3 years of that now. It's been a lot of fun.
Okay.
It's grown my audience quite a bit, so I'm very thankful for that. It's a great opportunity. Done a lot of, been in studio with Alex many times, and that kind of opened the door for other things. We did a Tucker special, so nothing but love for Alex, in terms of all of that. But yeah, it's been great, man.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. Shout out to Alex. Tell Alex, when you see Alex, tell him Hotep Jesus said he got to come to the Grifties. He got to come to the Grifties. When you see him, tell him. You know what I'm saying? We got Grifter of the Year Award, grifties.com. What up, Chad?
What do I have to do to get the Grifter of the Year Award?
You got to get your grift on. Got to get your grift on. Got to start grifting,
Do I send you my IRS tax report like at the end of the year and you see how much I brought in? How does that work?
That might be an interesting way to see. You gotta get the people talking.
Okay.
Usually the grifters are the ones that people complain about.
Okay.
And either it's righteous complaint or it's just indignation or whatever?
So infamy, basically, infamous.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Indignation is the term I was looking for. Sorry. Yeah. Candace Owens was nominated. Alex Jones was Grifter of the Year last year. Shout out to, Alex Stein. Alex Stein was Grifter of the Year last year. Shout out to Alex Stein. Alex Stein will be at the Grifties.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that in Jersey or where's that at?
It's in Jersey. We're going to
Okay.
be at the Dojo of Comedy, grifties.com. Make sure y'all go get y'all tickets.
Do you do comedy? Do you do stand-up too?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm black,
Okay.
so you kind of got to do stand-up comedy just to survive. You know what I mean? It's like a prerequisite. You got to have jokes. You got to, but yeah, we got the Grifties coming up. That's going to be dope. I can't wait. We got Sam Tripoli.
Oh yeah.
We got
no Sam.
You love
No
Sam?
Sam. Good.
Sam
Oh, yeah.
gonna be there. We got
Yeah.
the VIP event Friday night with Sam, and then we got the VIP situation at the Grifties on that Saturday. Chrissy Mayer is confirmed. Sonny Johnson's gonna be in the house. Shane Cashman, Phil from All That Remains. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. We got some other special guests that I'm not allowed to name. Some heavy hitters are confirmed to be in the building. So, it's gonna be major. It's gonna be major. Anyway, you actually could be a contender for Grifter of the Year. You are grifting on probably the greatest grift of the year, Taylor Swift. And you've done hours of content on this.
In the last week, yeah, oddly enough, it's not something I ever thought I'd be talking about. I was saying the other day, I don't know anything about Taylor Swift, like song wise. I've heard one song, maybe. I just don't follow a lot of, pop girls.
Right.
I'm not a 16-year-old girl, so it doesn't speak to me. But yeah, it was on my radar because it popped up that there was a event where some presumably feminist women that work at NATO were batting around the idea of who to bring in as a disinformation dispeller. And they thought, why don't we bring in the biggest pop star, Taylor Swift? But of course, we know that what that really means is to actually put out disinformation. So to translate that, right, they were thinking of using the biggest pop star in the world to kind of be the voice of NATO, which a lot of people on Twitter were saying, oh, that's crazy. Why would you ever think that you could have a pop star that works for intelligence or that's an asset? There's actually a long history to this. It goes way back. You can go to, some of the first famous celebrities that were, like Houdini, for example, right? People don't know that Houdini worked as a spy for I think Interpol, if I remember correctly. But there's actually a long history of entertainers working for intelligence agencies all the way up through the Cold War. So there's nothing new here, but a lot of people don't know this. So when they hear it, they think, oh, that's nuts. There's no pop stars that are agents. It doesn't mean Taylor Swift's going out and, assassinating people like James Bond. It just means that she can be tasked with putting out government disinformation or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. From my perspective, what it seems like is people are combating disinfo with disinfo. I'm not even seeing good info go out. Right. So even the info that people carry on an everyday basis, even surrounding flu 19, all the information on both sides I felt was really off. Did you get the jab? Are you pure blood?
No, I don't believe in any stabbies. I don't remember the last time. And maybe when I was a kid, I had one for rabies. I don't know. Maybe I had rabies when I was a kid. I'm just joking. No, I don't remember ever having any stabbies at all. So,
wow. Okay. So how did you come to the conclusion that you weren't going to take the stabby?
Well, I read, I've been awake to the conspiracy world since probably 2003. So I watched Loose Change and, Burmes's stuff back then. I started questioning everything. So I got into studying health elements of the conspiracy probably around 2005 or six. And I eventually came across Dr. Jonas Salk's book, Survival of the Wisest. And of course, he's the father of modern stabbies. And in that book, he actually gives he gives away the whole plan. Basically, he says that what we can do with inoculations is a lot of experimentation with fetuses, with people that have illnesses, and we can see what these things. So basically, all of it comes out of experimenting on people. So when I read that book, I did a video on that maybe 6 or 7 years ago. It got good traction. I've never, ever since then, I'm like, no, I don't want any part of that.
Exactly. So let's move back into Taylor, right? What are the connections that you have that pin Taylor, or just, even substantiate the argument that Taylor Swift is in cahoots with the lizard men,
Well,
Wall
I think,
Street.
in her case, she comes from a very wealthy family. You can go back and I think she has like a Federal Reserve banking family member going, a few generations back.
Well, she got good connections.
Yeah. But to substantiate like the history of this, like I said, you can go all the way back to Houdini being a spy. But if you think about the origins of Hollywood itself and the music industry by extension, it's always been connected to two entities, the government and organized crime. There's always an overlap of these worlds. And if you understand all three of those worlds, then you see how this is really the same entity in the background that's operating. So, for example, we had Ben Affleck do an interview not too long ago where he said, I think if you look at Hollywood and you look at people's backgrounds, you would be surprised to learn that Hollywood is, quote, full of CIA operatives. And he said that because he was doing the movie at the time, Argo. Mm-hmm. And Argo, of course, won the Academy Award. And Argo is a fake movie that was a CIA operation in Iran. So they were extracting some of the hostages in Iran, and they used the production of a movie, a fake sci-fi movie, as a cover. So that's just one example of a real story, true story that happened, where Hollywood was using, and this is probably one of the most famous uses of, Hollywood productions as a CIA front or cover. But if in my second book, I gave multiple examples. There were FBI operations where they set up fake movie studios, actually made movies, but the whole thing was a sting. It was an FBI operation to bust some people and entrap some people. So again, you can go back to Jimmy Stewart. Right? Jimmy Stewart was in the FBI story, spying for the FBI and working for the FBI during the Cold War. And I think that his motivations, he's basically a dude from Hollywood with no scandals. So I think he was a goody-goody who really thought he was helping, fight communists and socialists and all that. But in reality, it's just another window into the close connections between the deep state, the Pentagon, and Hollywood. In fact, a lot of what you see with Jimmy Stewart doing FBI promo videos and stuff, you can find them on YouTube. They're filmed at Wonderland Studios, which that's out in Hollywood. If you go up Mulholland Drive in the canyon, you can find at the top of the hill a big former Air Force studio. So it's a government studio. It was the most cutting edge studio of that time. And it was used by Marilyn Monroe. It was used by Walt Disney. It was used by Cary Grant, Jimmy Stewart, right? A lot of that stuff is filmed at Wonderland Studios. Now I think it's still owned by Jared Leto. It's basically his private residence. But if you drive up the hill, you can still see a lot of the old Air Force memorabilia there, which again, it's weird. It's a house now, but yeah, that's just one great classic example.
Let's cut right to the chase. Are you a moon landing denier? Matt Walsh has coined this term, moon landing denier. And one of his arguments to substantiate the claim that we went to the moon is that it would be, what do you say, harder to pull it off than to actually go into the, he said it's basically harder to fake the moon landing than it is to actually go to the moon. So are you a full a moon landing denier?
I'm a skeptic. That's the way I put it. So I don't know for sure what happened. But what I do know is that the evidence that's put in front of me that I'm supposed to accept is very dodgy and kind of at times laughable, right? I mean, if you believe what NASA says about all that, you're kind of bound to also believe that we're playing golf on the moon. I mean, it's a life, you know, a life. Basically, everybody could die if one person messes up. We need all of our crew to get back, but we're going to play golf. We're going to risk, you know, popping a hole in our suit, dying, and nobody getting back, just so we can have this, you know, frat bro moment of like, oh, playing golf on the moon, dude, get the shot, right? Getting a selfie of me playing golf on the moon. It's just crazy. I think that 100% that's obvious propaganda. Now, could we have also gone to the moon and we don't, and I don't know. I guess it's possible, and I don't know. Maybe Elon Musk is really going to take people to Mars in some kind of craft that I don't understand. But the evidence that's put in front of me is not just the original moon landing, which is funny to me, but also all of these other stories of playing golf on the moon, like the Apollo 13 or whatever it is. So I'm a skeptic.
So what's your argument to the fact that it's easier to go to the moon than it is to fake the moon landing?
Well, if that's the case, then I would expect that the story of going to the moon would be consistent. But what happens is when you go into a lot of the interviews, a lot of the accounts, we find a lot of contradictions. So I don't understand why a lot of the astronauts and the people supposedly who have done this, why they would have such mixed up stories. Oh, it was really hot when we were flying in that tin can. Oh, it was super cold when we were. Is it hot or cold? Which one is it? Right. Oh, well, there's an interview that came out in 2014 or 15 from NASA people, and they were saying one of the problems about getting to the moon is the Van Allen radiation belt. So they even admitted this, which is something that critics have pointed out for a long time. But in the video, they never explain how we got past the radiation belt, right? So it just it leaves it as this sort of thing that's unresolved. And now we have basically NASA saying we've lost all the footage. It's been erased. Oops, sorry. Most important event in human history. Sorry, we recorded over it like it's a 1993 VHS tape, right? With a dirty movie on it that's recorded over. Oh, sorry, we recorded over it, right? I mean, it's just, that doesn't add up to me. And then we've got the moon rocks, which are supposed to be proof, right? The mainstream media says, oh, it turns out those are fake. So we're handing out moon rocks that are just actually just rocks from the quarry. I mean, so all of these tales don't add up. To me, that makes me a skeptic. Do I know what happened? I don't know what happened, but have you ever seen Capricorn 1?
No.
Okay, you got to watch this movie. This is a movie that came out in the mid 80s, early 80s, and it's got OJ in it, right?
Okay.
OJ plays an astronaut who's recruited into this inner mission, and they're told that we're going to fake the Mars landing. Mars is just standing in for the moon. And OJ and all these other astronauts, at first they go along with it. And then they decide that it's dumb, it's ridiculous, and they're going to spill the beans to the media. And they get threatened and harassed, and it turns into this big conspiracy. It's a famous TV movie where, again, they faked the Mars landing. I think that's a very revelatory movie, if you want to get my take on it.
Yeah, that was my argument. My argument was, what if everybody involved is just part of the op? That's just the easiest way to explain it, right? Everybody's paid off. You get a nice pension. Your family be taken care of. We'll put trophies and monuments around the world for you. Great, good. I'm in, right? Or you fool them too, right? You fool everybody at NASA where, while they're looking over here, it's actually, something going on over there. But
they claim that they've lost the technology to go back. I mean, to me, again, that's also suspicious. So we've had like tremendous advances in technology, but this 1960s tin can technology has been lost. I mean, to me, that just doesn't add up.
And can't go back. How come everybody that go back fail?
Exactly.
China failed and their shit got shot down.
Right.
Who else shit got shot down? Because that's what I think was going on. They say they coming in and the moon people is just like, stop it.
Do you believe in aliens? What's your take on aliens? Because I'm anti-alien. I don't believe in aliens.
I mean, the fact that I'm black, I pretty much got to believe in, Yakub and the aliens are black theory, and we run in the moon and we run the universe. I pretty much have to believe that as a black nationalist. I'm not deviating from it. We're all Yakubians and some shit like that. But I mean, mathematically, right? There has to be a foreign entity of varying intelligence that could be comparable to a bipedal carbon human being, right? I think mathematically, yeah. I also think that there's a strong possibility that humans are pervasive throughout the universe, and that every alien race is human, and they just blend right in, and some of them are different types of humans. It's a lot of varying possibilities. I think the scariest part about it all is that we look like reptiles at the early stages of, the embryonic phases to become the full human being, right? So that's the most creepy to me. But yeah.
Let's see. Well, have you ever seen, there's a great documentary called Mirage Men. Mm-hmm. I recommend people watch that. It came out maybe 2014, 15, but it's a good critique of the whole alien mythology and origin story. And basically it's just arguing that it's a disinformation operation to eventually give the West a new mythos based around alien visitors. So I think it's a big deception, a big psyop.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they're going to use some fake aliens to, amend the legislation to give them more control and power. Absolutely. No. I definitely believe that. What they tell us about aliens, at least, is going to be used against us. Yeah. That's like this stuff around the Project Blue Beam. People were talking about that. They're going to be beaming, images into the sky of alien invasions. Yeah.
Well, the early stories that came out, like one of the first guys is George Adamski, and his story is the first abduction event. But what happened that was odd was that people discovered that his story matched up perfectly to a science fiction novel that had been written. So a lot of people were calling him out as a fraud. And oddly enough, the director of the CIA at that time, Alan Dulles, stepped up to run point for him and threatened anybody that would question Adamski and his story with a lawsuit. So I'm not sure why would the director of the CIA, a famous lawyer, want to run point for this wacko dude that claimed that he was brought up on a spaceship with big booby aliens like Venusian said. No, literally, he's like, oh yeah, when they took me up there, it was like Marilyn Monroe and they had giant tits, and it was, okay, that sounds like a made up story, and it matches the sci-fi novel, but the CIA director is going to run point for you. So that to me is one example of many examples that suggests that there's a lot of intelligence involvement in the origins of the narrative of aliens and Roswell itself. So I think it's another psyop.
Yeah, I would definitely corroborate that argument. I wouldn't want to argue that. Who's going to win the Super Bowl next week?
I think that the Super Bowl is probably rigged via organized crime and a lot of this stuff. I don't know I think they brought in Taylor Swift and Travis Kellis or whatever his name is. He's going to bring the milkshake. He's bringing my milkshake brings little boys to the ball. Is it Kellis? I don't even know football players' names, dude. Anyway,
Travis Kelce.
I think this is an organized soap opera drama to bring ratings and attention back to the dropping NFL ratings because of going woke, right? They went woke back in 2016 or so. Ratings are going down.
Nailed it. This is about brands. Tell them.
Yeah. That's the easiest number one explanation.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So they figured out, look, people want more than just a football game. They want a story about it. Let's have Taylor Swift being over in Japan, and can she get to the Super Bowl in time? Can she get on a plane when she's done with her, and then will she get there, and who's going to win? And it will probably be, right, his team winning, and then he and Taylor can have this big party. I mean, that's what I think. You must agree. You seem like you agree with it.
Oh, this a real Hotep brother.
Yep. Yep. Hit the like button if you agree. Hit the like button if you disagree. Bro, I think people are doing these gigantic leaps about the Illuminati, and I'm like, we got to deal with step one first.
Exactly. No, you're right.
Step one, this shit is about brands. How do we make her bigger, him bigger? These are great managers of icons at work. We just had the whole controversy last night with the Grammys. Everybody's talking about Jay-Z, Killer Mike got arrested, and you know all of this. That the new thing online is, did Killer Mike get arrested on purpose? You know, is that part of his story, right? So all of this stuff looks like a big CIA op, especially when I'm sitting here with Jay Dyer.
Oh yeah, dude. So I was watching old Cat Williams clips from like a year ago, and he was talking about the Will Smith slap of Chris Rock, right? And he was saying back then that he's like, if you pay attention to any of this stuff, it's all branding and it's all concocted to get basically media attention. That's it. It's advertising. It's performance art / advertising. I was about to do my Cat Williams impression, but I'll hold off on that. That's a bunch of media. Okay. That right there is a bunch of media. Anyway. So, yeah, it's the same thing there. Like that was a big event. It just happened to get everybody's attention on the award show.
Yeah.
Now we've got this big event drama that's going to get everybody's attention. I mean, that's 101. That's exactly what it is. And that's how media works. That's branding. Exactly.
Yeah. So what's step two? All right. So the first step is, all right, how do we make, the NFL great? How do we make Kelsey great? Taylor great?
Yeah.
Mahomes great? How do we make them great in a thing? And then, so yeah, I think it's predictable to say that the Chiefs win next week. But what's the meta to it, right? Are there any? Because when I think about Illuminati connections, right, they're talking about especially the red whites, the conservative ink, the woke right. This contingent of people are now making it like, oh my God, the Democrats are gonna use her, and I'm like, nigga, they've been using people.
Yeah, I mean, it was
like,
Katy Perry.
Is she actually going to affect the elections?
I think that they want to use they're pulling out all the stops. They'll use anything they can to affect the election. I mean, go back to 2016, Katy Perry, Cardi B plays the DNC, right? I mean, they've been using pop stars for a long time, going all the way back to, stuff we were talking about. And they'll fit it into the party politics. The Democrats usually like to have the pop stars, playing their events and that kind of stuff, and the Hollywood stars. So that's old news for sure. But there is a meta level issue at work here, which in my view, the real Illuminati, that's people like Brzezinski, that's people like Kissinger. When Kissinger died a few weeks ago, I did a whole big deep dive for a couple of weeks on Kissinger and going into his writings and all the stuff that he was involved in, all the black ops like Gladio. People don't know what all kind of crazy stuff he was involved in. He was basically doing a lot of basically Epstein style stuff with blackmail rings, with assassination hit teams in the Cold War. So he's a long time dirty player. And his overriding philosophy, though, as an operative for the Rockefeller Foundation, wasn't just doing black ops and getting people killed and drug trafficking in other countries. It was actually the long-term goal of pushing the depopulation agenda, which he actually got through at a governmental level under the Nixon administration. So Kissinger was in the background pushing what we call State Department Memorandum 200. People talk about that, but that's actually a much bigger program that wasn't just about targeting the third world and depopulating the third world. It was actually an overall plan called Global 2000 back in the 70s, which was projecting how to get all the population numbers down in varying degrees and in different ways in different regions. So that's what Kissinger was really about. That's the real Illuminati. So when I see stuff like the NFL's woke, that's just to attack the biology of people in general to make sure they don't propagate. That's a sterilization operation to make sure you don't have kids. That's what that's all about. So the big long-term goal is, yeah, the NFL is there to push that agenda, the Skittles agenda, not because they care about anybody's rights and freedom, but to make sure that you don't go into the future. That's what that's about.
Do you know the first union between the United States government and the NFL?
I don't.
From my recollection, it's the Star Spangled Banner.
Really?
Star Spangled Banner, paid for by the military. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If anybody has any connections that predate that, let me know. But yeah, that's a military op.
Yeah, exactly.
To bring about like this patriotism.
You remember back when Katy Perry, I think she played the Super Bowl at one point, maybe 10, 15 years ago. I forget when, but she came out with a video that's a military recruitment video. It's one of her more popular songs, but she gets dumped by her boyfriend, and she immediately goes and enlists. And it was around that time that they started doing a lot of military recruitment in the midst of the Super Bowl. So around the same time.
Taylor Swift, right?
No, it was Katy Perry's.
No, I'm sorry, Katy Perry.
It's her video. It's one or something like that. It's the one where she gets dumped and she's got a military. In the thumbnail, it's like her wearing a military outfit. She looks like Demi Moore in G.I. Jane.
Word.
I forget the name of that song, but yeah, that's another great example. That's it. That's it.
Oh, let's get this on the screen right now. Hold on. What's that? Yeah, y'all. But my issue is, there she go right there. My issue is, it's like, how much influence do these people have? Because we're starting to see diminishing returns on influencers. VCs have even gone away from influencers and have gone to pre-fluencers. They call them pre-fluencers, like you and I were like our pre-fluencers, because they're finding out that the pre-fluencers actually have more say and pull.
Exactly.
People actually believe us. And I think people are becoming numb to the whole, situation with, pop stars. They know they're being paid. You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. Well, Travis is like the face of Pfizer, right? He's been, gotten Pfizer money. Exactly. So, yeah, there's this old idea in geopolitics of the idea of a culture bearer. And the culture bearer idea is not the person that's the most popular. It's more like real thought leader, right? The people who actually have high IQ and are kind of ahead of the curve. Again, Alex Jones, right? Very ahead of the curve, 10, 15 years ahead of what the mainstream news breaks for a long time. So I think that people are starting to figure out that the Hollywood, the old school system, that machine is breaking down. And you see it breaking down in a lot of different areas. It's not just singers. It's also in the comedy domain. People that are in the old legacy system that do stand up or are well known as comedians are getting salty. They're getting mad because people are figuring out you're not that funny. We've been told that we're supposed to think you're funny. Mm-hmm. There's other people on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok that are way funnier than you that aren't part of this corporate. So it's, all of these things are kind of crumbling, and the legacy system is like, no, don't leave, and I'll come back. We are funny. Look, we're the legacy system. So it's across these domains. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right there that they spot people who are
When I think about when I go on Fox News, right? People look at it like, it's an opportunity for me. And I'm like, the only reason why I'm on there is because legacy media is dying and they're trying to stay young. Like,
exactly.
It's a symbiotic relationship. They need me just as bad as I need them. Actually, I mean,
when the boomers are gone, when boomers are gone, who's going to be watching Fox? Nobody.
Right. You're connecting me to boomers. Like, it's like, it's a complete decay of the yesterday way of doing things, and I don't think people understand that. I don't think people see it, but they're starting to. I think that's my argument, right? Like why Taylor Swift is impotent is because people are like, man, fuck out of here. Like we like that song from Taylor Swift, but we're not bought into Taylor Swift, you know? And I think that inflation is way more influential than Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I mean the whole like if you go back to Disney, for example, like Disney, the only way that Disney became Disney as we know it is because of the Pentagon and CIA connections. A lot of people don't know this, but like
really,
yeah. So the way that Disney got the land in Florida was that he had to get the CIA to get that land for him. And when they got that land, there was all these, attachments and deals that came along with it. Like, well, you're going to work with the Siemens Corporation. You're going to work with the Pentagon. And Disney, again, is kind of like Jimmy Stewart. Like he thought, oh, I'm going to, be a patriot and I'm going to help my country versus the communists. So he was very tied to the government because he thought, I'm just giving him the benefit of the doubt. He thought, he could fight the commies or whatever. But what you end up doing is kind of linking yourself to this octopus, this behemoth that you can never get away from. And as time goes by, Disney then becomes basically the system's control mechanism for imagination, right? I mean, their whole thing is about imagination, right? Imagination is kind of everybody's individual creative magic. That's the whole ethos of Disney. But they're one of the MK Ultra doctors, Dr. Gregory Bateson, had this famous quote that he said, if you really want to control men's minds, what you want to do is control their ability to imagine. So literally one of the MK Ultra doctors is saying control imagination. My theory is that Disney was really about controlling creativity. So they want to co-opt and grab every budding artist that comes up as a kid and kind of funnel them into that control system. They don't get everybody. Not everybody's a Disney, actor or performer or whatever, but they did get a lot of them. Miley Cyrus, Ryan Gosling, all those people, Britney Spears, come out of the Disney machine. And it's not accidental that a lot of them come out damaged. I think Britney Spears is mind controlled, like sex kitten that went crazy. And I'm not saying that like to be mean. I mean, I think that's literally what happened to her. So that's an example of this, but people are figuring out via the freedom the little bit of freedom we have on the internet and social media. They're figuring out, hey, wait a minute, that whole system is like a big messed up, like damaging, psycho toxic thing. And I think we're right now on the verge of people figuring that out. And the whole thing is going to flip away from all that stuff.
You got me thinking when you said, the guy from the CIA said control their imagination, their ability to imagine. And the first thing that popped in my head was them Apple Vision goggles. Those things are creepy. I said it when I saw the ad for it last year. I said, y'all do not put this shit on your head. Do not put this shit on your head. I don't think you come back from that world once you hop in there.
Yeah.
And you get caught in there. See, it's one thing to put them on and you use them, but once they become, you know how we're attached to our devices, our phones?
Right.
If you have that attachment with that thing on your head, you ain't never going to come back.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. I was telling my wife, like I told you before the show, I was like, I'm going to make a vow to never put that thing on my head because, and it's not that I think that if I put it on my head, I'm suddenly going to be mind controlled or something. No, it's just that just out of principle, I think there's a point where we got to say, no, that's it. I'm not going to go along. You know what I mean? Because that's just the step before, like you said, the implantable chip, right?
Right.
It's like all this stuff comes in phases. It's actually intentionally planned that way to be rolled out in phases. So one of the things I cover quite a bit is the way that science fiction or fiction in general predicts the future. I don't mean that writers literally are looking at a crystal ball, but I mean, the arts have the ability to, like we're talking about with imagination or creativity, the artists and the arts have the ability to steer the future. And the reason that the Pentagon, the CIA, all these deep state, the reason they've been so interested in the arts for so long is that they know that is a culture driving institution. It's a way to steer and control culture because more people will listen to movies and music than they do the news. So it's way more important to control Hollywood and something like that than it is to control the news media, even though the news media is controlled too, obviously. But So what what happens a lot of times is that you'll find in a lot of fiction elements that predict the future. And it's often called predictive programming. It's a big part of the 2 books that I wrote on Hollywood. And so I go through examples of this, and there's a great example of the goggles and everybody being in this zombie mode in this, I think it's 2014. It's a dystopian fiction movie called The Congress with Robin Wright from Princess Bride. And in the future, she's an actress who is having her whole body and image scanned because the studio will own her CGI image. So in the future, this was 2014, almost 10 years ago, or now 10 years ago, they were predicting that you won't really have artists or actors or anything. You'll have the CGI renderings and it will be done with AI, right? So she signs over her image, the license to her image and her likeness and all that, which I think is interesting, biblically speaking, image and likeness. She signs that over. The corporation owns it. And then it fast forwards like 10, 20 years into the future from that. And everybody has the goggles on. They're walking around with those goggles on, and they live in the basically metaverse or whatever it's supposed to be. And they're literally dressed like homeless hobos, tattered rags, but they've got the goggles on. They don't even care. And they're everybody's like on drugs and like, laid out, just like, it looks like, what's that street? Is it Philadelphia where everybody's on fentanyl? Or wherever that is, and they've got goggles on, right? So I've always thought that was a really important predictive dystopian movie. It's called The Congress. Everybody should watch it because it's a warning. It's a warning about where we're at right now.
That's what's going to happen. Like once you put those goggles on, people talk about remote work. Your boss going to schedule a meeting and walk right into your world.
Yes.
And then once that happens, it's a wrap, yo. Like you no longer need to be a human being, and you're gonna it's gonna look like the end result is the Matrix movie where you're plugged into the machine.
Dude, I've got over here is a shelf of the transhumanists that are well known and their books. And Ray Kurzweil in his 2001 book and in his 2004 books talks about this thing we're talking about. And he said that when that rolls out, he says, oh, it's going to be great because you can, make yourself in that virtual world. You can be whatever avatar you want to be, and you can live in that world, and you can have sex with dragons, and you can do whatever you want to do. And then he says, however, there is a danger that it can be rolled out by a central government planning institution, and they will control your perception of reality. Eventually, they will be able to step between you and the outside world and control what inputs come into you. And then he says they will have total mind control. He speaks in this way in both books. In the chapter, he says they will have total control of you. So you have to understand, this is not being put out here for your convenience. It might be convenient, but the end goal, according to the very people who invent this stuff, the top transhumanists, they warn is like, yeah, it could probably lead to total control and a totally enslaved future.
So they have the goggles. You're in this alternative world, right? This is the step before the chip, but the chip is here. Neuralink.
Yeah.
Right? Now, all you got to do is say, hey, you remember what life was like with those goggles on? How about life without the goggles? But like you got the goggles on. And then that's where the chip comes in.
Right.
And then that's when, like you said, controlling the imagination. Oh my God. So where are you at with Neuralink? And
that Ray Kurzweil chapter where he talks about that, he's not talking about the goggles. He's talking about the chip. And he's saying that the chip will have the ability to control what inputs come into your system. And he even says it might even be able to control your perception of the world itself. In other words, the central control mechanism of the government, the deep state, the AI, whatever, can decide what you see. like not just what you see in the virtual world, but even your inputs, the way that you interpret and read this. So let's say you've got the chip in and you're reading a book, and the system decides you don't need to see that, then it's blanked out. You don't get to see that. Or they just erase the memory of you reading the book. That's what he says. Isn't that crazy? I mean, who would go along with that? That's so insane to me. But a lot of people are going to go along with it because they think, oh, finally, I'm going to get to have butt sex with a dragon, which I've always wanted to. I mean, they're going to push it, about all the sex stuff, like sex bots and all that. But then that will, be the trap, the honeypot, basically, to get you in this world. So Neuralink is pushed, as you know, for people.
Where are you at on Elon Musk? Are you bullish or bearish? Are you more like, he's definitely
look, there's two options, right? Two options. Either Elon Musk is super nefarious and just playing like he cares about freedom and all this stuff, or he's, like Alex thinks, like in a process of waking up and still not ready to shed the idea of brain chips and carbon taxes. So I want to hope it's the latter. I don't ultimately know Elon's motives. I hope for the best. I'm happy that X is freer than it used to be. But what his motives are ultimately, I don't know. But I'm not for let me put it this way. I have a family member who has tremors from Parkinson's, and they got not Neuralink, but they got a version of a chip that stops the tremors from having Parkinson's. So that works good for him, and that works good for people who have, but that's just a selling point, I think, to the bad news where we're going in 10, 20 years. So so I think it's good to help people with those kinds of things. I don't have any problem with that. I've seen it in my own family, but the problem is that that's the selling point to get you to take the thing down the road. That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. There are many inflection points within the rise and fall of an empire. And what's the term this author used? I'm going to, hold on. It's right here. The term he used here was, says right here, hold on. Gonna consolidate his power to no man. Hold on. I'd never seen this word before. Hold on, I'm still looking for it. Uncongenial. Under the rulers of nomadic. Here on the east, main masses, an Asiatic mankind, incongenial ruler ready to accept, conquer. Opening as a first part, giving Avenger state would have been rising. Separate Muslim. But it's this point where, and maybe you see this parallel. You can talk about this parallel you see in the books where life gets so easy that becomes the fall of that empire. Like they always say, easy times make weak men.
Yeah. What book are you talking about?
Well, the various ones you've quoted throughout this course here, and the movies that you talked about. I'm sure you start to see that. That trend where life gets easy and then the conquering.
Yeah. This is it's a feature of even empires in the past, right? They get decadent, they get, feminized, they get emasculated.
That's
and then
the word.
They get conquered.
You just reminded me. Here it is. Effete. You ever heard this before? Effete. I'm sorry. Effete.
Yeah.
Effete. You know this word?
Yeah, I think so.
Effete. What's the meaning? Tell me what the meaning is.
Isn't it like a weak feminized thing? I'm going from memory.
Yes. Affected and overly refined. Of a man behaving in a way traditionally associated with women and regarded as inappropriate for a man, no longer capable of effective action.
Yeah.
Effete.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never knew about this word, man.
Effete.
Effete. And that's what he described. He said as soon as the empire becomes effete, this is the Genghis Khan section of Outline of History by H.G. Wells.
H.G. Wells, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and he says effete. And I said, oh, shit. Because I knew what it meant when I first saw it. But I'm like, I've never seen it written like that in that word.
Yeah. Foppish dandies. Everybody's a bunch of foppish dandies.
And I think
this is the rat study. You've heard of the rat study.
Word.
Right? Yes.
Yes, the rat study where
licking themselves.
Yeah, and they become overly sexual because life is so easy. And
just a bunch of rat coomers.
Yes. Yes. He said effete and ebulations, I think the other word was. Hold on, let me see. Because of ebulations. Oh, here we go. Yeah, effete. Yeah. And there was another word in here. I'm going to find it later, and I'll give it to y'all chat. It was another word he used in here. But effete, yeah, effete. That's crazy, man. That is.
Yeah, H.G. Wells is one of the top technocrat socialist planners for the world that we're going into. So one of the things I do is kind of lecture. Yeah, I lecture through a lot of these books that planned out this stuff.
Okay.
So we've lectured through about 50 or 60 of these texts. So that's everybody from Kissinger to Brzezinski to H.G. Wells, Bertrand Russell.
Tell me about H.G. Wells. Tell me about this whole socialist thing.
So he's probably mostly known for, writing books like War of the Worlds, Island of Dr. Moreau, right? All these kind of sci-fi classics. But he was also a very high-level Freemason and Marxist socialist, very open about it. He was a member, for a time at least, of the Royal Society, a member of the Fabian Socialist Society. And he's also the father of modern propaganda before Bernays. So you couldn't have Bernays without first having H.G. Wells. And he figured out a lot of techniques, for example, in terms of how to portray Asians in posters for World War I to demonize the opposition to the British Empire. He got really good at propaganda, and then he started writing a lot of these fiction novels, science fiction novels, that he realized that if you really wanted to tap into the psyche of the mass population, you do it through fiction, not through fact and boring books. So that he noticed that his science fiction novels were having this tremendous effect, and a lot of it very ahead of its time. Island of Dr. Moreau, for example, has genetic modification, way before genetic modification. He wrote Shape of Things to Come, which is 7 or 8 years before World War II, and predicted a lot of what would happen in World War II. I don't think he predicted it because he was again, he didn't have a crystal ball. He predicted it because he was in the circles of the people of the Royal Society who were planning World War II already. And if you read Dr. Carol Quigley's book, which is one of the books that we lectured through, Quigley talks about how the World War II had already book? Tragedy and Hope.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he talks about how World War II had already kind of been planned, right? Wars are planned years ahead of time. They don't just happen out of nowhere. They're planned many years ahead of time. Yeah. So H.G. Wells basically became this master propagandist and says in 2 really famous nonfiction books, Open Conspiracy and New World Order, he says that the future that we are planning is a future where there's a technocratic utopia of a small elite that's been depopulated down to very small percentage of the existing population. And that future society will have to get rid of the rest of the people because they're not fit to go into the future. So religion's got to go away. He even says we'll create a fake world religion to get rid of the existing religions. We'll control that. He says that we'll have a one world currency. We'll have a one world government. We will, get rid of all guns, all self-sufficient. He said basically the enemy of the future is the self-sufficient individual. So he's a super duper collectivist.
Damn. Yeah, man. Damn, man. That's
you could fast forward from what he wrote 100 years ago,
right,
to 2 people nowadays, Jacques Attali and Klaus Schwab, And in their books, I mean, Jacques Attali is the Kissinger of France. He wrote a book called Brief History of the Future in 2006, which is all about where we are now in 2024. And everything that Schwab and Attali write about is exactly the same plan that H.G. Wells wrote about 100 years ago.
Damn. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. You know, I knew about H.G. Wells, but, you know, all these different things, I'm like, damn. You're providing a lot of evidence for the conspiracy theorists.
All of this over here is, this is the, not conspiracy books. This is the systems books admitting things.
The system admitting to things. Oh, I like that. I like that. I like that. Tragedy and Hope is a great book. Adderall needed. Yeah. I've told my audience about that book. It's like one of those books that you kind of got to read before. You know, I be talking to people, man, I'm like, you ain't read Tragedy and Hope. You shouldn't even be voting out here, yo.
Exactly. Yeah, that's probably one of the most important texts. I made myself read that with my Spurg powers back in 2016, 17, and we lectured through the whole book in about 16 hours worth of lectures. So It's still up on my YouTube if people are interested. But yeah, it's absolutely necessary text, basically just pointing out in the first 100 or 200 pages that this monetary system that we have is it's fraudulent. It goes back to the old gold note system where they can inflate the gold notes beyond the actual gold reserves. That same system is the basis for the Federal Reserve System. Quigley admits all this, and he's not a conspiracy theorist. People think, oh, is he? No, he's Bill Clinton's mentor. Okay, he's coming out of the system, right? Explaining how the system works. He's basically writing the apologetic, the defense for why the establishment had 2 world wars and now the Cold War, because he wrote that book in the 1960s. So it's kind of explaining that the tragedy of the book is the 2 world wars. The hope is democratic liberalism for the whole world. Yeah. That's the point. But it basically admits everything, right? It admits that the banking elite that run the Federal Reserve are behind the wars, and the wars are about eventually kind of create. Everybody forgets the middle chapter is really the most important chapter, because in the very middle of the book, he goes into how the future societies will be run by centralized AI computers. So basically, he says it's a managerial technocratic society that's being planned. And he's not the only one. I mean, I've got Miles Copeland's books where he's CIA operative. He says, if you want to, he was involved in 2 theaters of war, particularly in the Cold War, Egypt and Syria, and then Egypt. And so he was basically the CIA's consultant to Nasser and all these people in Egypt. And he says, if you really want to understand what the CIA is up to and all this stuff, he says, go read the Council on Foreign Relations and Bertrand Russell. And he says, it's just about reorganizing these nations to fit them into the global system to eventually have depopulation. That's all of it. It's about that.
Depopulation. Ain't that a bitch? Ain't that a bitch? I saw something the other day where they said, was this one of Bill Gates' people said we're at negative economic growth worldwide? Did you hear about that one?
No, but he's definitely a classic villain in this whole scene for sure.
Oh, Bill Gates?
Oh yeah.
For years, yeah. What do you know about him?
Well, he comes from a family, I think, his family basically was running Planned Parenthood before he was even on the scene. And then he's always had this, well, everybody has, the history of, like, he has a shady history of how he got, the technology and whatnot to run how Microsoft works. I don't know the whole history of all that, but there's a long been stories.
That was his roommate. He stole Windows from his roommate.
Exactly. Yeah.
Chad, who was his roommate?
I don't remember. But
it wasn't Steve Jobs, was it?
I don't know. It's a long discussed story of him being shady, and then Microsoft is really like 100% like a deep deep state corporation. A lot of people think these corporations are, oh, they've just, free market. They just rose from their, pull themselves up by their bootstraps. No. All of these companies got money from the government, seed funding, right? In-Q-Tel was the CIA's front to put money into Facebook. A lot of these, I've got CIA people's books talking about this from like 15, 20 years ago. So Melissa Mela, she has a book, Denial and Deception. There's a whole section in there about In-Q-Tel funding a lot of these startups. So people think that it's not free market. It's corporatism. So anyway, Bill Gates is part of that corporatism structure. That's really what Microsoft is. He comes from a big eugenics family, depopulation philosophy. So, to me, that's a simple explanation as to why he's so heavily involved in acquiring farmland, promoting Planned Parenthood, promoting stabbies all over the world. He's been booted from countries because his stabbies hurt people. I mean, it's that. It's like it's that. My godfather has a book he wrote on Ethiopia. It's called Unknown Empire, about the history of the Coptic Church in Ethiopia, and he's got a whole chapter in that book on Bill Gates's operations in Africa and Ethiopia. So, yeah, I mean, this is well documented.
Yeah. A lot of experiments. Him and Dr. Stanley Plotkin.
Yes, I was looking for that book. Here it is. Yeah. So you might actually find this interesting because it goes into a lot of interesting African history here.
Let me see that. What does it say? The story of.
He's writing about the Ark of the Covenant and how the Ethiopian Coptic Church views it. And it's a lot of African history.
Yeah.
My godfather, he's an author. He's written a bunch of books, but there's a great chapter in here about Bill Gates' involvement in modern African history. Yeah. So he's got the Bill and Melinda Gates chapter there. Okay. So anyway, it's a neat book, but I'm just pointing out it's a well documented thing. It's India too, right? I think he's tried the same stuff in India, and been booted from India. I don't know, like he can't go there or something.
Yeah. Man, had a fantastic time with you today. Really enjoy getting to know you. Yeah, I love the information you have. The information is bountiful and palatable. The chat is enjoying it.
Cool.
Shout out to the big brains up here in the chat. Facts. Argo, to make use of CAA they just created. Shout out to Jonah. You and Jonah will probably have a field day together. Brett Patterson, he said, could it be that Trump is the psyop? The math isn't math, and it looks like the Dems are throwing a fight. Do you think it's possible the deep state get to Trump? That's a really good question, man. I feel like all roads point to Trump, and even the Illuminati, the aliens, they all want Trump to win. It seemed like a Trump's by a landslide. What do you think is going to happen in the coming elections?
I mean, I'm really leaning towards them rolling out events to make sure that there's not an election. So I have criticisms of Trump. I think some good things.
Wait, hold, time out. So you're one of the people that are fearful there might not even be an election.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. Oh shit. Hold on, man. Hold on.
Or it'll be another, I mean, I don't know if you heard what Tedros was just saying. He said that it'll be disease X, and he said COVID was disease X part 1. So the recent World Economic Forum they're signaling that they want another, another COOFID scamdemic.
Damn, Jay. So I had some people, my audience, they like, yo, called in. Some of my audience have called in, legit said, I'm fearful there won't be an election this year. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, it's a possibility. I don't put nothing past them. So, I guess you're in the same boat where you're saying you don't put it past them.
Right.
So aside from disease X, what else do you think they could use to pop it off? The National Guard, Texas stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
Race intentionally provoked race riots is another
race
option.
Riots. Oh,
Yep.
I could see the race riots. Why the race riots? What do you think could support race riots?
It's very similar to when we had the race riots back, what was it, 2016, 17, the summer of all the riots. I see a very similar situation to the 2016 election, that time period.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of Soros funded stuff, not real grassroots stuff, but AstroTurf stuff.
Yeah.
That all came out. I could easily see that being a vector, popping off vector point. I could see the border being a vector point excuse. They might even go into, coming like full on, JFK type of an event, if you know what I mean.
Yes. I was fearful of that. People have called in and said that. Damn. Shit.
I think 2024 is going to be crazy. That's my sense. I don't know, but I'm saying that's what I feel like is going to happen. It's going to be wild.
I know it's going to be crazy. As soon as the summer break, get low. Airplanes, they already set the stage for the airplane fiasco.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
What I'm seeing is...
I like the way you think. Exactly. Yeah.
Appreciate that. The other thing I'm seeing is on the timeline, I see race hustling has made a huge comeback.
Yeah.
Especially amongst the red whites. And you see it on the red side, on the right. It's always been a thing on the left. It's quite a lucrative industry, but now I'm seeing it's become lucrative for the right. And I'm like, this could become predictive of something that spills into the streets as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I see the system is pushing neo-pagan stuff for disaffected white people. But white people don't really want to go to a lot of these Protestant churches, these evangelical churches. So the new option is get into Odin, Wotan, all this kind of stuff. This is getting more and more popular. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a promoted movement to get people into that. And then I think those groups can be used and to provoke and, provocateurs, that kind of.
So are you a Christian?
I'm Orthodox Christian. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Chad's Orthodox. Cyprian's Orthodox. So I'm vaguely familiar. Okay. Yeah, the Odin stuff. Yeah, I'm starting to see more of that. I'm seeing the white man dressed up like, God of War and shit like that. Right. I'm seeing some of that.
I just saw a story of a Viking dude that ate another dude. So they had a grinder meeting. Yeah, I couldn't believe this story. They had a grinder meetup, and they thought it was a date. And he got over there, and the dude was dressed up like a Viking. He's like, "No, this is a meal."
They sacrificed him.
Yeah, he ate him. He thought it was a date. It was a meal, and he was the course. I'm dead serious. I'll send you that story. It's a crazy story. Anyway, I'm just telling that as a joke, but that's a true story. But it's an example of like all this really crazy pagan stuff that's getting more popular.
So what about the whole attack on white nationalism? What's that about?
What do you mean?
White, they always talk about white Christian nationalism. This is the thing rising up. And it's sort of being borrowed for race hustling. The race hustlers are using Jesus Christ and the New Testament to sort of galvanize their troops on their crusade to grift off of the race hustle.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think that like if you're a Fed or if you're the FBI or whatever, like you're not just interested in steering or controlling pagan movements, right? I mean, that you want to control all kinds of different movements. And so you'll have these kind of seeded, planted. So if I'm sure you know about COINTELPRO, like the history of the way that the Black Panthers were infiltrated. There was a dude named Richard Aoki, who oddly enough was an Asian dude. And he got the Black Panthers to start walking around with their guns out, which technically is legal, but what happened was the media took pictures and they made it look like oh, these people are about to, march down the street and attack you. So basically, it was a big PR stunt, and it went bad and destroyed basically the image of the old Black Panthers. And then Aoki, when he was in court, he admitted that he was an FBI informant, and then that was his job, was to do that. So I always see that event as an example of the way that all of these different groups are used and provocateured. And I've been saying that all the alt-right groups, even going back to 2016, 2017, I was saying that this was going to be used in this way. Before Charlottesville, I was saying all this stuff. And that's why a lot of those people hate me, because they go, oh, he just tries to destroy our movements. No, I'm just telling you how it works. I'm telling you what the system does, and you can, ruin your lives if you choose to. But so I think with Christian nationalism, they're already going to do the exact same thing. They're going to have the feds there. They're going to have the COINTEL style operations ready to push idiot people into doing some violent act. And then it's all over the media. They just run the same game plan. I'm not Muslim. I know I've spent the last 4 years doing public debates with the top Muslims. We have 4 or 5 of these now, the biggest Muslims out there. You can go watch all my debates. So I've gotten more and more into studying Islam, not because I'm interested in becoming Muslim, but I question the Big 9 event, but I'm also not a Muslim. I can recognize and understand that I don't believe the official story of the Big 9 event, but that doesn't mean that I believe Islam. Right. But if you look at the way that the system entrapped people, especially in the Black community, through certain mosques, if you look up, for example, the Newburgh Sting, this is a famous documentary called The Newburgh Sting that HBO put out maybe 15 years ago. So I think it's still on YouTube, but it's the whole story of how the FBI created this fake mosque that was appealing to Black people who had been in prison. They get them into Islam in prison. Then when they come out, they're part of this mosque. And this mosque was basically a big entrapment operation. And it fed into the narrative of, oh, look at all these terrorists. We got all these Muslims. That was back when they wanted the Muslim terror narrative. Okay. Yeah. It's super obvious that it's fake. It's a setup. What I'm saying is that same model is what they use all over and over and over. So it's going to be the exact same thing with the Christian nationalists. They'll have some fake Fed thing. They'll have the pagan Vikings out in the street doing crazy stuff.
So correct me if I'm wrong. If I were to say that some of the influencers or pre-fluencers on the timeline purporting, white Christian nationalism or anything like it, they could be feds on the timeline. They could be operatives and as such, agent Smiths.
Absolutely.
Damn.
Absolutely.
Damn.
I mean, I'm not going to say who, I don't know who, but this is usually the way this kind of thing happens. And I saw this the first time I got into media back in like alternative media, maybe 2013, 14. I went to an event with a friend of mine who's worked with RT, and I don't know if you know who Patrick Henningsen is, but he does a lot of media stuff you see him on Twitter a lot. And he's worked with The Guardian and RT in the past, but we went to do you remember the Bundy Ranch event? Do you remember all that back in the day when Adam Kokesh was out there and there was Alex covered it? It was a big deal back at that time because it was about eminent domain and the government taking over that land.
Waco.
No, the Bundy Ranch, not Waco.
Oh, the Bundy Ranch. I'm sorry. Yeah. You said Kokesh.
Yeah, Adam Kokesh, the libertarian. So
I'm
Kokesh,
sorry.
Kokesh he got popular because he was riding a horse at the Bundy Ranch, right, with like a libertarian flag or something. I forget what, but
you're talking about Adam Kokesh. I'm sorry, I was thinking about the cat from Waco. I'm sorry.
Anyway, I'm just using that as an example of I was helping Patrick film a documentary about the event, and it was just there was feds everywhere at that thing. I mean, it was just packed feds and provocateurs. It was crazy. Anyway, so that was kind of like the first thing I saw in media was this crazy event back at the time. And my introduction to media, I'm saying, was like, you could see like feds and provocateurs. And it was like, that was my introduction to media, was seeing all this stuff. So I knew from the beginning of alt media that that's how it works. And that's why I've always liked Alex, because Alex is always talked about how they use provocateurs and how they stir up these movements. And it doesn't even have to be that the government created the movement. You can have an organic movement that starts, and then they'll send in these goobers and crazy people to, you know, steer it off into crazy stuff.
You ever seen the video game Hitman?
Yeah, I played the first one.
You know, he got that barcode on the back of his neck.
Yeah.
So I was on Gutfeld, right? And one of the special guests as I was on stage with me was Tulsi Gabbard. I met Tulsi Gabbard, and she was in the dressing room, and I went to go introduce myself. And while she was getting ready, she had one of those barcodes on the back of her neck, yo.
Really?
Nah. I
was like, what?
She an android, though, I swear. Tulsi Gabbard's an android. She was made by United States Air Force. That's my conspiracy theory. I shook her hand, and her hand was like really fucking strong. She got a strong ass handshake. I was like, oh shit, she got an android handshake. Yeah,
she's got an Anakin Skywalker hand.
Word. I think she's definitely a cybernetic being created out of the United States Air Force, or is she in the Navy?
Are you? Now I can't tell if you're joking or being serious.
I don't know.
You don't know if you're joking.
This is how much I'm questioning our world.
Yeah,
Jay.
right. Exactly. Okay, so hold on. I got a question. Like, so some of the theories about cloned rappers. What do you think of that?
Some of them, yes. Some of them, no.
Okay.
Right? Like, we'd have to go one by one. Clone Gucci. I was questioning Clone Gucci for a minute. At first, I was like, nah, he ain't Clone Gucci. And then I saw a couple of things. I was like, oh, that one's kind of convincing, you know, made me question it. But I think, I definitely think they rolling out clones out here. It's definitely a possibility they rolling out clones. I think Uncle Hotep got cloned. He left. Now, you know, he's military. He left. He went on vacation for like a week. He came back. He was not the same person. He had this new persona. He had these new glasses. Yeah, I think they snatched him up and cloned his ass, and they got him in Gitmo, something like that right now.
Wow. Well, so what about now? In my view, I think it's definitely. I'm iffy about actually cloning, but I think they will because celebrities are huge brands and commodities, as you know. I think it's a lot easier explanation, Occam's razor, to think that, well, if somebody kind of went crazy or they went off the script and they want to, then they'll have like a body double or somebody who's very similar, be that person. I think that's probably happened in the entertainment industry quite a bit. I mean, probably more than we think.
I think Langley has what you would call generic bodies. Okay. And these generic bodies can be modified through hormones and surgeries, and they can make somebody look like somebody. But even, you know, I forget, it was a Chinese president that had a body double who served out.
There's a movie, a lot of them. Bin Laden had body doubles. Saddam Hussein had body doubles. In fact, there's a whole movie made about Saddam Hussein's body doubles. Exactly.
Yeah. I can't wait to have a body double, you know.
Could it be me? You think I could be your body double?
You know, for some reason, I just don't think. Almost. You might have to get dreads. If you get dreads.
I got long hair though, so hold on. I could put this into dreads, and then would that be good enough?
A little bit longer, we might be right there. They might need to have on the Apple goggles though. Oh man. True Iceman said, thanks for bringing Jay on. Thanks for recommending them. Y'all recommended them, yo. Hotep for the interdiction. You have a new sub, sir. Shout out to Descendant of Loki. Descendant of Loki just gifted 20 Hotep Jesus memberships. This segment of the show was brought to you by the Descendant of Loki. Oh my God. Yeah, Jay, you know what I am? I'm that meme on your page. I felt attacked when I read this. Hold on. I'm about to show you what I mean. I could have sworn I saw it on your page, and I'm gonna put it up on the screen, and I'll read it to you. Hold on. Yep, here it is. It was your page. So it says here. Is this the okay? It says here, you believe in something? You're fucking stupid. I'm a cynical nihilist who doesn't hold a coherent belief about anything, so everyone knows I'm smart and above it all. Everyone else is dumb. We're all fucked. LMAO. I feel it.
No. That's about George Carlin, because I there's a running joke in my audience, and I do this when I do stand up and comedy and whatnot in live events, and I make a lot of boomer jokes. So one of the running jokes we've been making for a long time is about boomers, and I've always joked that George Carlin, he has some points when it comes to talking about the conspiracy. I've just never thought his comedy was funny. So I thought that meme was really funny because it captures kind of the George Carlin, just cynical nihilist perspective. That's it. I just thought it was funny making fun of George Carlin. My grandmother was a huge George Carlin fan, and I just never she was, used to play his records and stuff. I just never thought he was funny. I agree with the insights, like the cultural commentary, but he's not funny to me. So.
Yeah, but this is how I think. I really can't believe something. I can lean a certain way. If you say pick a side, I can make a decision, but I'm very much, and people say it's because I'm a Libra, so I'm always going to have this balanced approach to life. But yeah, this is how I am, except I'm not a nihilist. I don't think this is all for naught. I'm very much there is purpose to life, but I am cynical.
I think you can be cynical and funny. Bill Burr is really cynical, but I think he's funny.
Yeah.
And he might even be nihilistic. I just don't think George Carlin's funny. But yeah, I think every comedian has to some degree have that kind of make fun of everything. Everything's kind of ridiculous attitude. So,
but I feel like it's because everybody on both sides just brings shitty arguments to everything. Right?
Well, that's true. Yeah.
For example, the Hotep political globe, which basically shatters the concept of left versus right, right? So the globe got the state in the center. And on the topic of abortion, the left and the right would pretty much occupy nearly the same coordinate, because they both want the government involved in said issue. You know what I mean? Whereas people try to separate it, it's just at the end of the day, y'all both asking for government interference, which just leads to the degradation of the Constitution. So you're both derelicts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how I look at some of this stuff, where it's I'm not just being a skeptic. I'm actually looking at things for what they are, and y'all both dumb as hell. And I feel like that on a lot of the different issues.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, we probably have different philosophies overall, but I'm guessing you're libertarian leaning or libertarian-ish.
Yeah, I would definitely say so.
Yeah. I think that libertarians have a lot of good insights, when it comes to the way that the actual control system works. So when they critique these movements like pagans or race worshiping movements, these kinds of things fall into the same traps of being manipulated. That COINTEL model is a thing I would agree with most libertarians on, how they critique those movements. But I also agree with what you're saying, that a lot of this stuff is just controlled at the top above the party level. And if you don't figure that out, you're just going to be stuck in these two fake, left, right. I mean, remember when, for example, people that questioned the Big 9 event, back in 2003, 4, 5, originally it was pretty diverse as to who was involved in it. And then what quickly happened was it got shuffled into party politics, where they thought if you question that event, then you have to be a Democrat because it means you don't like Bush.
Boom.
And it's no. They immediately steered that event into party politics. And then it was Obama, even back in the day, played up on that. And he brought in and attracted a lot of the people that questioned the Big 9 event. And then Obama immediately went into being the corporate spokesman that he was always intended to be. So they do the same thing with a lot of these issues where there's a real issue that comes up and then it gets debated and then it gets steered into party politics.
Yeah. Yeah. So where are you? Because you said I'm libertarian-ish. Where are you at?
I want my Orthodox Christianity ultimately to influence my politics.
Okay.
But that's so far removed from everyday American politics that I'm not really involved in politics because to me, it seems like a waste of time. I mean, I think people can be involved in local politics if they really want to have an effect.
Right.
But I'm kind of apolitical. Like I just take each issue and then I make a decision on each issue based on true and false. So left, right is a false thing to begin. I'd rather talk about right and wrong, true and false, not left, right. You know what I mean? So it's like, let's take each issue. Do I want government health care? No. Do I believe in a right of free exercise of, starting a business and free laissez-faire on an individual level? Yes. Do I want big bloated government taxing me? No. You know what I mean? So it's like you have to go down the line about, do I believe in the death penalty? Yes. I think that the death penalty is a good thing in principle. Do I want a corrupt government exercising free death penalty? No. I mean, so there's no easy answer on that. Does THC have good health benefits? Yes. Is it being genetically engineered and is it dangerous? Yes. So a lot of these issues, there's not an easy, you know what I mean? There's not an easy one line solution.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So I want to ask you this. What made you say I'm libertarian?
About you?
Yeah.
It just seems like I remembered on some of the interviews that you did with Alex, you talked about being a business owner, being a businessman, and that typically when people are in alternative media who've been businessmen, they're not socialists. You know what I mean? They're not going to, like, because if you have a business and you've run a business, then you know how corrupt, like, the government and the way that they, that stuff.
Yeah.
So that I just assumed that you were probably more libertarian oriented.
Yeah. I'm more of a Mises guy. Right?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm more of a Mises libertarian where for me, I'm apolitical. I'm like you, I'm apolitical. But when I say I'm libertarian, it's because I'm diving into modern monetary theory by Murray Rothbard. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at just Mises's work, right? And Austrian economics. I'm more into the science of how the markets work, the science of the debt instruments. Like that's really like my biggest interest in it in that space right now. Like the CBDCs are another form of that debt instrument, right?
Right.
So that's the shit I like to get into in the weeds.
Yeah, I would agree with all that for sure. Yeah. I mean, I have some critiques of Austrian economics. Maybe that'd be like a different conversation. You should come on my podcast. We have a good deep conversation about all this kind of stuff.
Sometime. Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to talk about that.
Yeah.
Shit. But yeah, that's the only reason why I said I'm in libertarian, because it seems like that's the only people that have published anything contrary to what Keynes has published. You know what I'm saying? So you kind of
I hate Alfred. Keynes is a Fabian socialist, and he's basically responsible for a lot of the global institutions that were set up, like IMF and all of that, which is destroying everybody's livelihood ultimately.
He was the architect of the Bretton Woods Agreement.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that, again, I'm apolitical. I don't vote. I'm like you. I like to get to the truth. And I like that about you, man. That's super dope, man. It makes sense. That's why everybody was like, yo, you need to talk to him. Yo, appreciate y'all for making that happen.
We had a good conversation. I'm really happy to be here. Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. Chat, appreciate you. Jay, we're going to go to commercial break. We'll be right back. Jay Dyer, his link is in the description box below. Go follow him. What's your website, yo?
Yeah, you can find me at jaysanalysis.com. There's a shop there if you want my books. I got 2 Hollywood books. I got a couple philosophy books. So Esoteric Hollywood 1 and 2. And then I got a big fat 600-page philosophy book here if you want the red book. jaysanalysis.com. You can find me on Twitter and on YouTube under my name as well.
Sweet. Appreciate you, man. Hold on, y'all.
Yes, sir.
I'll be right back taking phone calls after the break. Text Hotep in your name to 202-596-5631. Text Hotep in your name to 202-596-5631.
Yeah, I can try to get that handled for you. Again, it's only my second day, so if you can give me a second. How I'm supposed to do this? How the hell are we supposed to do this by 5 o'clock?
I have no clue.
Is that possible? Hey, do you have the password to... How'd you finish all your work already?
He's not tapped in. How'd you get that done so quick?
They think they're gonna be able to budget that?
It's money. That's money right there, you understand?
You guys finished your work 6 hours early? He's not tapped in.
Yo, that bottle moving around like that looks so freaking crazy. Like I said, if you want to get on the phone lines, text Hotep in your name at 202-596-5631. Text Hotep in your name at 202-596-5631. Jay was dope, man. What'd y'all think, man? Good interview, right? Yeah, I would say so myself. I would absolutely say so myself. I can't wait to talk economics with him. You know, that's my passion. What's going on in the world right now? King Charles has cancer. Ain't that a bitch? Ain't that about a bitch? What do y'all think caused it? You think he took the jibby jab? Or is this karma? Is this sin? Is this sin catching up with him? What is this? What is this? Well, I kind of like my screen like this. I never tried to put my screens like this before. This is actually really easy to manage. This is... Hold on, let me see. Watch this. Internet celebrating. Look at this. These cats is crazy on the internet, man. You know, I'm not going to say anything. This is going to be one of those times where I'm going to keep my mouth shut. That's just the vibe I get from this story. You know, stay mum. Stay mum. What does Piers Morgan say? King Charles' cancer. Buckingham Palace has announced he is undergoing treatment and has canceled all public engagement. Shocking news. I wish His Majesty a full and speedy recovery. You know, the only thing that really comes to mind here is we just got finished talking to Jay, and Jay was talking about disease X. What if disease X is like this form of cancer? What if? You know, because who else was it that just came out and they said they had cancer? I feel like it was another person came out. So, yeah, who knows what's going on that front? Yeah, I like my screen. I think I like my screens like this. King Charles got cancer. Ukraine and Israel. Ukraine and Israel. What does this bill say? They went crazy while y'all was talking about the Grammys. Y'all was out here tweeting about the Grammys. Couldn't have been me.
Oh, this a real Hotep brother.
Couldn't have been me. Nicholas Irvin says, getting pimped out by Ukraine and Israel for over 100 billion USD has to make even the dumbest person question it all. And why was Killer Mike in jail longer than the dudes that jumped NYPD? Damn. I love NWA's F the police, but any of us would be under the jail if we bitch slapped a cop. Man, listen, if I hit a cop, what? That shit would be breaking news. Breaking news across the fucking United States of America. Hotep Jesus attacks police officer. Hotep Nation got to GoFundMe, go give, send, go. People gonna be grifting off my name. Cat's gonna be trying to bail me out. Raising Bitcoin. Could you imagine if I hit a cop? They definitely lock my black ass. They'd lock my black ass up longer than them illegals, just for the headlines. Just for the headlines. I seen how they did those cops. We talked about it on the show last week. See how they did them cops. But didn't we cover this last week? This the bill, right? I believe this is all in the same bill. Right here. So Congress just drafted a border compromise bill that included 3 times more money for foreign countries than it did our own border, billions more for Ukraine, but nothing concrete to fight America's fentanyl epidemic that is killing thousands. This is inexcusable. It's time to remove these traitors from our nation and send people to Congress who put America first. This is where they be fucking up right here. Maybe we need to slow down on sending people to Congress. Maybe. Just a thought. I haven't thought it out fully, so, do with it what you will. Fuck you and fuck this bill. This is a border security bill for Ukraine and Israel, not for America. Stick it up your ass. 100 billion? What else did we miss? People have discovered Niji. Niji's really dope. This is the, at least I think they're talking about, oh no, I thought they were talking about the AI. I guess this is some Japanese shit going on. I thought they were talking about the AI, the Mid-Journey update. What else is in here? Let me see what else is in the bag. I might cover it today. I might save it for tomorrow. I don't know. Let me see. I watched that. That really wasn't interesting. Charlie Kirk. I might grift off of that tomorrow. The Apple Vision stuff, we touched on that today with Jay. So we talked about that. Let's take this out the bag. We covered that. I really don't have much in the bag. I had Jay today, so, I think we had a great conversation. But, that kind of just tells you where my head was. Like, my head this weekend was not into what the timeline was into. I was in a completely different space. Let's go to my timeline. I'll show you where my head was at. I was, hold on. I'm going to show you. If you look at my timeline, I was in outer space, man. So first of all, don't forget, don't question my jumper. Schwap. Somebody said my form ain't good. I don't know. I think my form is cash money. Y'all tell me what you think. I'm just living life. Oh, hit it one more time, dude. That's cotton. That's cotton right there. My FBA card good. Unc, you up next. Let me see your jump shot, Unc. My FBA card is good. You heard? So what time was this? 9:51 a.m. I shared this, but it was earlier in the day. I was up stupid early on Saturday, fucking just studying. This is 8:22 a.m. My brain is fucking working out. Oh, here we go. All right, 7:30 a.m. This is my brain was at. Everybody was talking about Grammys, and I was like, y'all was making me barf. I was doing so much reading it this weekend because the timeline was making me barf. And the more the timeline make me barf, the more I read. So I had got mad reading done this weekend. And so, you know, right here, communists are like high-class gangsters. And this is at 9:30 a.m. I was at the gym, you know, making sure the temple looks good. You know, making sure the temple's healthy, first and foremost. You know. And then we got into this. I said, people who have done little to no research point to the term socialist in the term National Socialist German Workers' Party and believe Nazi and socialism are equivalent. This is an intellectual blunder. And Jonah had posted a link somewhere in here which corroborated my stance. But I think, you know, so somebody in here said, you know, really the argument is that socialism, Nazi socialism operated similar to socialism. I'm not quite so sure about that. Again, a lot of this stuff has a gray area. It has a range. It's a spectrum. So I plan on diving into the details of how economics work in post World War I Germany, under the rule of Dolph. But I just remember Dolph say, no, that's not it. Hold on, let me find this link about what Dolph said about socialists. Because Hitler's take was socialists not doing socialists right, which is very much a thing a socialist would say. Socialism has never been done right properly, right? So he's got like a different form of socialism, which I think is a great thing. But to say it's just because the term socialism is in the name, I think is unfair because he hated what socialists stood for at that time and how they operated. All right, I might have to look for the article on the Oogles. Hold on, let me look for the article on the Oogles. Is this it? Yeah, all right. This is all right. This is what I want. Okay, I found it. This is really what I wanted. I wanted all the text combined, and this is a really great start. Hold on. Let's see what Dolph said about socialism. So he says, when I take charge of Germany, I shall end tribute abroad and Bolshevism at home. So he's specifically attacking Bolshevism. Says in the following document is an excerpt from an interview with Adolf Hitler conducted by German-American writer and Nazi sympathizer George Sylvester Weyrich. Damn, wait. Weyrich got a couple of things underneath his pen. I know this name. Liberty Magazine, blah, 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 blah. He said, Dolph drained his cup as if it contained not tea, but the lifeblood of Bolshevism. Bolshevism, the chief of the brown shirts, is our greatest menace. So he says Bolshevism is his greatest menace. Kill Bolshevism in Germany and you restore 70 million people to power. France owes her strength not to our armies, but to the forces of Bolshevism and dissension in our midst. Okay? We discussed the fate of Germany over the tea. I said, why? I asked Hitler, do you call yourself a national socialist since your party program is the very antithesis of that commonly accredited to socialism? He says, socialism, he retorted, is the science of dealing with the common weal, health, or well-being. Communism is not socialism. Marxism is not socialism. The Marxians have stolen the term and confused its meaning. I shall take socialism away from the socialists. Socialism is an ancient Aryan Germanic institution our German ancestors held in certain lands in common. They cultivated the idea of the common weal. Marxism has no right to disguise itself as socialism. Socialism, unlike Marxism, does not repudiate private property. And that's the key part right here. Because even the lady that was that had issues with me last week that I wasn't responding to, I forget her name. I'm sure she's a nice young lady. She says does not repudiate private property. And everybody knows that's what socialists usually rock under, is the repudiation of private property. So there's definitely a conflict here, not only in name, but in philosophy. So it's unlike Marxism, it involves no negation of personality. And unlike Marxism, it is patriotic. So that's the other thing between his socialism, which he says in the name is national socialism, is it comes with nationalism. Okay? He said, we might have called ourselves the Liberal Party. We chose to call ourselves the National Socialists. We are not internationalists. We are socialism. I'm saying we are not internationalists. So that's another thing about socialists. They're globalists, right? So let's highlight that. Our socialism is national. So this is where the quandary begins. And this is where Hotep political globe theory triumphs once again. So he says here two things. He says, could have been the Liberal Party. Right? Is there a blue on here? There's no blue. Let's just do green. Liberal Party. But then he mentions this socialism, nationalism. Right? This would be red. So is he left wing or right wing is the argument that people were having online. Is he left wing or is he right wing? And I'm like, if you look at it like that, you will always be confused. But when you look at it as on the globe model that you have in mind, is what you people call left and right are one and the same. One and the same. It's too much nuance. This is why you got to put it on a globe, and they would probably be along the same longitude coordinate, but they'd be on a different latitude. I feel like they'd be on a different latitude in this Hotep political globe theory. So again, this is what socialism is national. This is, to connect that thought I just had, is white Christian nationalism operates as a form of socialism, right? Because he says it's about the common weal. The common weal. This is an important piece of it. The benefit for the common weal, right? But how do you classify it? Well, the common weal, not of the world, but of our nation. So is that left wing or right wing? Calls himself a liberal, calls himself a nationalist. I'm sorry, a socialist. Calls himself a liberal, calls himself a socialist, but he operates like a modern right winger. This is for the well-being of all white men, Christian nationalists. This is for our nation. So is he right wing or left wing? It says, we demand the fulfillment of the just claims of the productive classes by the state on the basis of race solidarity. That's the other thing, race solidarity that he wants. And that's, again, white nationalism, right? So I don't know how you say, and a lot of people will argue, well, they'll say the current white nationalists are left-wingers. And that's another argument, again, where I just can't have, because that could also, on the left versus right spectrum, yeah, he can be classified as a left-winger. You can't really classify him as either. State and race are one, he says. He said, what are the fundamental planks of your platform? He said, we believe in a healthy mind, a healthy body. The body politic must be sound if the soul is to be healthy. Moral and physical health are synonymous. Mussolini, I interjected, said the same to me. Hitler beamed. The slums are responsible for 9/10. Alcohol for 1/10 of all human depravity. Okay? Alcohol. No healthy man is a Marxian. See, now he's starting to sound like Hotep Jesus.
Hotep, you're a genius. HotepJesus.com.
Healthy men recognize the value of personality. We contend against the forces of disaster and degeneration. Bavaria is comparatively healthy because it is not completely industrialized. If we wish to save Germany, we must see to it that our farmers remain faithful to the land. To do so, they must have room to breathe and room to work. So, yeah. So, like I said, it's really hard to really classify it, which is why you got to go with Hotep political globe theory. You know? So it could get a little complicated. What's this say from Jonah here? He is bought over by a place or pension. If to crush him would be dangerous, it very great. He then is made a peer, and all his opposition ceases. His immediate self-interest from first to last in every form of government alike, even the greatest. Self-interest first to last. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's definitely self-interest at its core. Hold on, my intuition tells me come back here and take a look at something here. Hold on. Why was I compelled to come back and look at this? Why it's in the slums has now popped out to me. Yeah. The ghetto. So alcohol in the ghetto is basically a formula for Marxism. Interesting. State and race are one. What's missing from here that I want to find? I think we have to look into hyperinflation and religion. I specifically want to look into, anybody got any book recommendations for some of his banking policies, some of his private industry policies? Because in order to understand this beast, we got to look at the numbers. And again, in my political book I got coming out, we're going to be doing a deep dive into this subject matter here. This is why I said, like, everybody's somewhere else, and I'm like, this is where my brain been at past few days, just like researching and looking at shit. You know what I'm saying? What else was I into? So then I continued that thought and was like, well, since we don't know if Hitler is left or right, I'm like, well, maybe Marx is right wing. So, you know, when he says from each according to his ability, to each his own needs, you know, this very much sounds like a meritocracy. Am I wrong in saying that? This sounds like a meritocracy? Almost. almost, right? Because what's inferred here is that the government is coming in and taking away from you something and giving it to somebody else. But they're only giving it to a person based upon their needs, which is a meritocracy. Like if you prove that you need more, you can have more. You know? If you've proven you have this ability to produce, maybe you receive more. Just like there could be various interpretations of this if we just remove preconceived notions of what we thought Marx meant, right? From each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. That basically saying is, if I produce a lot, I get to keep a lot. No? Can we not construe that statement as that? Am I crazy? Am I too crazy? Because I said from this quote, I might be able to make the argument that Marx was right-wing, according to Wikipedia's explanation of right-wing. In here, they say hierarchy and inequality may be seen as natural results of traditional social differences or competition in right-wing market economies. This is a right way of thinking. And if he's saying that to each according to his needs and from each according to his ability, he's basically saying there's various degrees of ability and various degrees of needs, which is sort of a hierarchy. It's definitely a hierarchy, right? So, you know, I was exercising my brain on Saturday and everybody was talking about the Grammys and I was just like, I need new friends. To say there is a good socialist is the equivalent to saying there is a good Nazi. And this is a good quote from, I was watching this thing here. It's a bunch of Catholic priests on here, and you know they're basically laying out their gripes with communism and the French Revolution. I'm in the segment of my studies where I've taken a pretty decent look at Russia. Taken a pretty decent look at Germany. I have not taken a deep dive into the UK. Although I'm just trusting some of my previous studies. When my interest peaks, I'll dive into them. But I feel like we get so much of that. But the next up for me now is I want to dive into France's history. So I've been looking at Napoleon and some of that stuff. But I think those are you kind of got to study Russia, Austria, Bavaria, Germany, Poland too. Poland needs a decent amount of study from me to really round out, you know, my knowledge of this stuff. And in the UK, right? All of the UK shit. But now I'm on to the French, and it led me to a modification of my definition of socialism. Now, previously, my definition of socialism was centralization of power within the hands of the state. And it was the second time I was on a Joe Rogan Experience where I first had the epiphany that my conclusion was wrong. And I froze like a deer in headlights. I said, yeah, you know, my definition is socialism is the concentration of power within the hands of the state. And I paused and I was like, damn, I kind of just like negated my own argument in my head in that moment, mostly because I'm a fucking fascist dictatorship. But I wouldn't classify what I have as socialist. So I had to modify it. And I might modify this again in the future. And I said socialism is a centralization of economic decision-making within the hands of the state. And some people have said that, you know, socialism is more of a social construct than it is a scientific construct dealing with economics and banking. And I disagree because when you deal with private property, you're now dealing with economic tools. These are tools: land, resources, people, all currencies, money. All these things are facets of economics. So if you come in and you interrupt that, you're making economic decisions. And again, that's why I was talking to Jay. Like when you say I'm a libertarian, like really, I'm just a libertarian because I'm there for the science. I'm not there for the politics. I'm there for the science. I want to know about the dead instruments. You know, Nico, he said, I recently learned that after World War II, Tolkien sent a letter 96 to his son. In that letter, he wrote something like, "It seems like the machines have won the war. What'll their next move be?" What do you think he meant? I'm not familiar. I know the name Tolkien. I think it's supposed to be a umlaut over that E or something like that. But I think I've seen that name before somewhere in my studies. I'm gonna have to take a look at it. Send me the text and I'll take a deep dive look into that and see. Is Rumble okay? Is Rumble cool? But I think it's always been that, right? I think it's always been, dependence upon the machine. And again, this is why I think like every society needs to have military training for young boys. Like I feel like at the age of 9 or 10, boys should go to the state for military training and turn them into men. Yeah, I think at some point in your life you have to put your son through like Hell Week or something like that. And I'm not saying from like a hazing perspective, but like your kids need like an initiation. You know what I'm saying? Who is this? Strong Dad?
Call from
Strong Dad.
Yo, what's good, yo?
What up?
What's good with him?
I don't know if I interrupted you while you were saying it, but Tolkien is the guy who wrote the Lord of the Rings series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's not Tolkien. It's Tolkien. It's Tolkien is what most people say. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They are.
I'm thinking about. I thought this was German. I'm sorry.
No. I think what the commenter, to answer the comment, I mean, I don't have 100% insight, but I do know that he created that book off of his understanding of the war, and that's where some of those more gory scenes come from. But I think what he was inferring when he said, "Looks like the machines have won," was this is the time when machines of murder created by man are truly at their like most magnificent. Between like the mines and the bombs, everything that happened during that time as far as technology, weaponry, they might as well have been fighting the war over the people. I think that's what he was inferring when he said that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I mean, you can even draw some conclusions possibly from it. Just the fact like who controls the machines. Even it could be a bunch of things. I feel like you could draw from that statement that you said, because no one really knows like where he. Yeah, and Shaka talked about coincidences in his work that also match with some of the African history, kind of the same way that there's some iconography in Conan that goes along with African history and stuff like that. I can't remember exactly where he went to though, because Shaka will pull you down Alice in Wonderland's rabbit hole. And,
yeah.
Bring you out the other side, a changed man. So I can't really remember, but that's what he was referring to.
Yeah, I never read that work. I never got into the Middle Earth shit. Not to say it's bad. I just never got into it. I didn't even know about it until like I was a full grown ass adult. You know what I'm saying?
Really?
Yeah. Like what year does this stuff come out? 1945, 1925, 1945. He wrote The Hobbit and 1973, The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. I had no idea about this shit until this shit was like in the movies.
Yeah, that's kind of how after prison I kind of jumped into that work, because you get some time in the library.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Wheel of Time and all this other stuff, but.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, really, that's all I wanted to call into. I was just kind of listening and enjoying.
Oh no, I appreciate that context. Thank you. Thank you for providing that, because I was completely lost. I was like Tolkien. I'm like, I feel like I've seen that name before, But I thought it was German with the umlaut on top of the E. No, this is the dude that wrote Lord of the Rings. Got you.
Yeah, I'm looking for a redefinition of left and right.
Yeah, it's again, it's the way I'm looking at it is just like different coordinates, right?
Can we give them one word? Can we give them one word
status
to describe them both?
Status is probably the closest.
Because I just feel like either way, they're both doing the same thing. It's just
their status. It's
a mirror image.
It's like it's the equivalent of bootlickers. It's like, for example, right? Like when you look at something like Macedonia, right? And or Rome, even the people, the aristocracy closest to the Senate and the Senate making these decisions, were very, so to speak, boule. And the people today who are on Twitter, they would be that aristocracy class that is engrossed in the Senate. You know what I mean? As opposed to really keeping the Senate on point, they're caught up in the politics and the show that the Senate creates for them,
and the sexual perversion.
Oh, that comes along with Macedonia.
that comes along with it.
That's just how they was.
What is the byproduct of which? What is the byproduct of which? Is what I'm wondering.
Yeah, that's a good question. But again, I guess, slums, right? If you're the slum of the earth, you get like what Dolph was talking about. You get that degradation, that deprivation of culture and healthy humans.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I mean, you can see it play out in poor communities pretty well.
Yeah.
How the at least the politics of the outspoken, because the majority of them aren't speaking, but at least the politics of those who are speaking start to kind of mirror where they live. And it doesn't really, like, there's no solutions that come from that. It's just, how can we prolong this? How can we protract this problem, instead of a solution on the onset? We don't want the remedy. We want the doctor's solution. We want to keep coming back.
Yeah. Yeah, get a prescription. Yeah. Well, appreciate you, bro. Thanks for context. Happy Mondays. It's a hell of a week we got ahead of us. I'm ready. I'm here. My feet planted in the ground. I'm about to hit the gym.
I'm not even worried, man. All I do is wake up, work out, enjoy my family, go to work, come back home, and just watch the world crumble while I play some video games and wrestle with my 2-year-old. That's all. That's all you need in life. Have a kid, y'all.
Ayo. Hotep and Bill.
All right, man. What's up? Hotep and Bill.
Strong Dad on the check-in. Tolkien. Yeah, I never read that stuff. I ain't never read his stuff. J.K. Rowling. I'm telling you, I ain't know nothing about white people until 2016. I'm just getting caught up. I've been completely in another world. I was trying to survive. That's really what was going on in my life. I was trying to survive. So then I hit the gym. I had to hit him with the, the official stamp on the FBA card. Just let them know the form is there. You know what I mean? And then this shit was funny. King Randall took the black kids to the pilot museum, to the flight museum. That shit's hilarious. I see what he did there. That was real meta trolling right there. That was genius. What's funny about this one is they was pissed in the comments, boy. They was calling me racist. Like this guy right here said, Hotep working against meritocracy. They was pissed when I posted this. The issue is, people just lack reading comprehension, because this clearly says conservative ink. And people just they just see conservative. They just see conservative worst nightmare. They don't even see this. They don't even see this. And I knew they wouldn't when I said it, you know. But I don't care. I thought it was funny. You know, I just really, and I could have tweeted this like I did before, but I couldn't pull myself to do it because last time Jamil Hill retweeted me. So I couldn't do it. I had to hit him with the very mild, you know what I'm saying? Cause I could have went crazy with the call to action. I was like, nah, I'm not going to do it to him. Yeah. So that was funny. Shout out to King Randall, doing great things. X for boys. Then I tweeted, I said, it's like everyone in the world with poor reading comprehension signed up for this app and decided to read your post and give their delinquent feedback. And that's always funny. But yeah, I was just in a different world. You know, I was heavy in my studies this weekend. You know. Oh, you son of a bitch. And still in my own world. Yo, I want to find that word real quick that I was supposed to share with y'all when I had Jay on. I just want to make sure I wasn't tripping because I know one of them was effete. And the other word was what was this? Was it on page 1? Page 1 of this section. Let me see. We have the Semitic. Byzantium, nomads, Arabia. Cynicism. Whenever civilization seems to be choking amidst its weeds of wealth and debt, he says wealth and debt and servitude, when its faiths seem rotting into cynicism and its powers of further growth are hopelessly entangled in the effete formulae, the nomad drives in like a plow to break up the festering stagnation and release the world to new beginnings. When I read that, I was thinking about the illegals coming across the border. Mongol aggression, nomads. Are we at that point in history? So this is where I'm at. Because you guys got to remember, I homeschool. So like when you homeschool, you are required to read the material. You know, you're the one giving the curriculum, right? So I was deep in the books this weekend. Got to meet with menofwater.com tonight. We're going to work on new merch. We got new merch coming soon. We met yesterday afternoon. That was great. That was fantastic. Still looking for this word for you. That's gonna that interview with Jay is gonna go crazy over on Apple, because don't forget Tay is uploading the joints too, because people have been asking me, they want them on Spotify and Apple. So the interview with Jay is also going to be on there. HotepJesus.com. You can go get the links from right there at the bottom of the page.
Hotep, you're a genius. HotepJesus.com.
Now too close. North and west. Tartar Empire. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, masses. Okay. Yeah. Was that the first part? In a slave. Indian separate month. Small ruling minority. All right. All right. All right. All right. I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you if I see it again. Again, I was reading so many different texts this weekend. It might not be this text that I was that I pulled this word from. So yeah, anyway, tonight, Hotep's been told you, the part 2 of Hotep's been told you comes on tonight. Me and Uncle Hotep, patreon.com/Hotep's been told you. Make sure y'all check in. Make sure y'all check in for that. We'll give y'all extra dose of Hotep's been told you. So I guess, Unc gonna make me talk about, all of the nignog shit, right? Like the Grammys, Hove. We're gonna talk about Hove and his statements. I guess I'll give my opinion then about Hove and his statements on tonight's show. What else? Killer Mike, Taylor Swift winning, and whatever else Unc got lined up for us. Wait, what the hell was that? What is 200 ARS? What is? He said 200 ARS? What is that? Argentine pesos. Shout out to, that's the equivalent to, wait, are you serious? That's the equivalent to 24 cents. If I have this right. Yo, did you send me about 25 cents in USD of, yo, that's why I said, yo, I think Malay shout out to Strong Dad for this image you see on the screen, by the way. I think Malay got a stable coin up. Nigeria's about to stable coin up. I think Malay's got a stable coin up. And it's like, it's one of those situations where it's like chess, where I know I'm supposed to make this move by how my subconscious is viewing the board, but I couldn't explain to you why this move makes sense. And the same thing goes with like CBDCs. It just feels like, the country has just more control. And it's just, stable coins can be very libertarian in such a way, I guess is what I'm saying here. 25% inflation every month. This shit is crazy. This shit is crazy. What was the name of those books you and HJ talked about? What? Yeah, these Nazi coins, Malay bucks. These Malay bucks, Nazi coins. Oh, man. My bad. I was just getting caught up on the chat here. Yeah, reading comprehension is a lot to ask from people. Yeah, this thing got 20. He sent me 25 cents. That's a hell of a hack. If you send your money like in another foreign currency, I think that's the other thing people miss from Elon Musk is his currency. His currency is something you got to watch for too. That shit's sitting in the background behind everything. Malay just doesn't have political power to pull that off. It's already hard to get people to accept the dollar. He's been having protests. He's been having a lot of pushback. I've been keeping up. So, we'll see. We'll see. I think some of his, again, I thought some of his policies were too radical. This is what I was saying with Jay before. I'm like, it's not like I can come in and say I'm right versus left. I just think, his And I guess, the radicalness in his policies is what helped get him elected. But, practically speaking, it's just not realistic. But realistic doesn't win elections. Something that we're going to be having this year. So anyway, like I said, see y'all tonight. I'll see y'all tonight for Hotep Has Been Told You. Also, I'm going to be late for chess stream tonight, kick.com/Hotep Jesus. I'm going to be a little bit late. We got an 8 p.m. meeting for menofwater.com to finalize merch. And then we'll have the chess. We'll start up thereafter. So I'm looking to be online by like 8:30. I'm about to go hit the gym. You know what I'm saying? Last week I was a bit discouraged. I looked at myself in the mirror and I didn't see no gains. This weekend I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh shit. Ooh. Yeah, it's about to get serious out here. Onlyfans.com/Hotep Jesus. Yo, ain't it crazy how Unc ain't had no evidence for that case? Yeah, homie said HJ is libertarian, but he a fascist though. Yeah, I'm definitely a fascist. Like, if you don't describe me as a fascist, I'm definitely, yeah. Takes time, Strong Dad. Yeah, I know. But starting to see those results. So yeah, I'm about to go hit the gym tonight. I wasn't at the gym yesterday. We had things to do, but and I didn't go this morning either. So I'm going to this afternoon. Like I said, just family stuff. You demand a retrial? Too late. What's the thing called? Statute of limitation. It's past the statute of limitation. A Hotep can't be tried in Hotep court for the same crime. Once he's been found innocent. It's past the statute of limitation. I'm a free nigga walking. Prosecution should have had the defense together. You dealing with a nigga that seen Power. I watched the show Power. I know how to do this shit. You was at the gym 4:30. I'll be back in there early tomorrow. Don't worry. We just have some family shit to take care of. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? But let me go ahead and get out of here. Hit the like button. Subscribe and all of that. Be well, be merry. Tell somebody in your family that you love them. Of course, Hotep and Bill.
Yeah, I can try to get that handled for you. Again, it's only my second day, so if you can give me a second. How I'm supposed to do this? How the hell are we supposed to do this by 5 o'clock?
I have no clue.
Is that possible? Hey, do you have the password to... How'd you finish all your work already?
He's not tapped in.
How'd you get that done so quick? They think they're gonna be able to budget that?
It's money. That's money right there. You understand?
You guys finished your work 6 hours early?
He's not tapped in.